Hello, welcome to Generally Speaking. Let's start off with does Israel have the right to exist? This is a question that's come up a lot, not so much lately as it used to during the first attack of Hamas, 2023, October 7th, but it still pops up. And I wanted to talk about this because this question goes down three different paths, I believe. The first is asking what does that even mean? Does Israel have the right to exist? If you're going to ask that question, I think you need to get a little debate about what does it mean for Israel to have a right to exist, or for any country for that matter, uh, do or be in order to have the right to exist. The second path this goes down is the person asking the question is actually not asking in good faith. They are smiling at the person they're asking, but they've got a knife behind their back where they're seeing if the person will say, yes, Israel has a right to defend itself. And aha, so you agree Hamas is a terrorist organization. Thank you very much. Or no, Israel does not have a right to exist. Or aha, so you're siding with the Hamas terrorist organization, you worthless piece of human being, you. Then there's a third path that this goes down, which is the person asking the question has never really thought about it at all and just kind of repeating what's popular these days, asking, does Israel have a right to exist? Now, I don't know how much of either of those paths any of the people asking it belong to, whether they're being just ignorant, having not thought about it, or whether they're being sincere, asking legitimate question about a nation's right to exist, or if they're being sneaky and trying to trap someone. But those are how I see the different paths of asking that question. And that's all I wanted to say about that. Listen, if you like this, please give a like and subscribe and notify and hit the notify bell. Yes, notify. So, speaking of Israel, we had a senator go to Israel recently, wanted to see what conditions were like in the West Bank. And turned out him and his crew were detained by Israeli vigilante thugs for like 75 minutes and harassed. And eventually, halfway through, the official Israeli Defense Force persons showed up and immediately sided with the settlers in thinking that this senator, Ro Khanna, and his crew needed to be detained some more. I don't know, detained for what? Detained for how long? What's the idea? Let's just stand here and look at each other and talk until maybe one of them gets hungry. Say, I think we've had enough. Let's leave now. Or, hey, listen, I got to take a bathroom break. And then they go, I don't know. But eventually, Ro Khanna, his group were able to get someone with overarching authority to allow them to continue on their way. So Ro Khanna, his eyes were open, so to speak, and he's very upset. And he even posted this was a big mistake. Except now he's back in the States. Hardly any of his colleagues even spoke to him about it. And a big mistake? No, nothing's happening. Nothing's going to happen. At least Ro Khanna is more solidified in his position against Israel, which anybody should be. So, any rate, let's move on to something else. China has recently enacted something called the One Ethnicity Initiative. And, you know, China is got a lot of different cultures within it. People think of the Chinese language, and there isn't really a Chinese language. Mandarin is the most popular and common, but there are, you know, tens or if not hundreds of other languages spoken in China. So this one ethnicity initiative is to try to get everybody on the same page. Mandarin is going to be mandatory. Okay, you can speak whatever language you speak in your region of China, but you have to at least speak Mandarin. And so, you know, I could see, you know, trying to bring everybody together, but sometimes this is really crushing your local culture and just, wiping it out. And the thing about China, it's improved so much, brought the country out of poverty, made it a superpower in unbelievable times, but they are still culturally and socially, a dictatorship. They watch everything you do, much like what this country is starting to do, but they've got it to the nth degree, and they seriously restrict any independent thoughts. And any rate, now they've got this one ethnicity initiative. All right, let me go on to this. Was presented by a producer, content creator named Kim Iverson. And she said the EU is going to jail people who share RT, which is Russian television content. They blocked Russian television content because it's propaganda, and heavens forbid the people hear for what another country is producing. I can almost see it in a way, we got European and American broadcasters trying to cast their news into countries that ordinarily wouldn't hear it. And I could see those countries saying, let's try to squash it. But here the EU is going further. It's one thing trying to keep the broadcasters from pushing their information. But now they're saying if people, caught a piece of that info and wanted to talk about it with other people online, they'll be punished for saying anything about it. We are going down the lines of losing our freedom of speech. The right is trying to assert itself. All right, the EU, NATO is still talking a big game versus Russia. They're still thinking they're going to win this, they're going to push this. And meanwhile, their economies are collapsing. There are no more weapons to be produced to give to Ukraine. Their economies are collapsing. They can't even afford to give them money. They're trying to hype up the military at the expense of social services. Once again, the right is asserting itself. All right. The U.S. is raising the heat on Iran. There was, supposedly a ceasefire, which has never really been a ceasefire. But now they're back to full war games once again, and we'll see how this will go. The U.S. doesn't stand a chance unless they start dropping atomic weapons. And interestingly, that's been a bridge too far up to now. With all the countries that have the nukes. We know Israel has them, the U.S. has them, the two primary people attacking Iran, and they haven't deployed them yet. It would be interesting to think what would happen if they did. It would certainly be a game changer in that. But how would Russia and China, the two biggest players next to the U.S., how would they react to it? I mean, for the most part, China keeps standing back. Though they don't like to get involved if they don't have to, let the other countries, kill themselves. But Iran is a rather strategic point for them and for Russia. So at what point would these two countries both think standing back is something we can't do anymore? But who knows? Speculation. Again, please like and subscribe and notify. Let's go on to Novara Media, another content creator. They said the UK is considering requiring YouTube algorithms to favor mainstream media content because, YouTube independent medias are becoming more and more popular, more and more consumed. Mainstream media is still out there, plentiful, yes, but a lot of alternative news is coming from YouTubers. And the UK, the governments are starting to notice this, and they want to reduce the influence of these independent people. They want to bring mainstream media onto the YouTubes and tell YouTube to push the mainstream media so that that's what comes up to the top. Once again, the right is ascending. All right, Florida enacted something called Individual Freedom Act. And individual freedom means, okay, you're free, you can do this or that. But actually, no, it says you can't. And you can't what? You can't be woke. So you can't talk about prejudice. You can't talk about systemic prejudice against black people or against women or against gays, which is essentially what woke is all about. And so the government in Florida tried to pass the Individual Freedom Act, which would limit or constrain what colleges or even workplaces could tell their employees or their students. And the Supreme Court of Florida shot it down, said this is, an interference in freedom of speech. So, from my point of view, I think that was a good thing to happen. All right, this is from a podcast called Secular Talk. Trump is asking for 350 billion additional dollars for the Pentagon because they're just going through all their funds and their ammunitions like there's no tomorrow. And this is on top of what was already been asked for in the budget of 1.5 trillion. Now they want another 350 billion. Yeah, never enough for that. No money for, medical care, health care, Medicaid for all, none of that. But yeah, for the military, we've got plenty. All right, in Kentucky, the state Congress there immediately passed bills attempting to prevent the Democratic governor Beshear from replacing McConnell, who has dropped out of the picture, was sick, something happened, nobody knows what, nobody can talk to him, nobody can see him. Some photograph was presented of him. Look, I'm fine, I'm, just recuperating in the hospital, I'm at a recuperation center. And the state legislature, and they did this in my state, North Carolina, too, where strangely the governor is Democratic, and meanwhile the Congress of the state is hardcore Republican. I don't know how these things happen, but the same thing happened in Kentucky. And so all those Congress people right away, they threw up roadblocks as hard as they could to stop the governor from appointing someone that he would like, which of course would be a Democrat, since he's a Democrat. But the Constitution of Kentucky says that the governor has the right to appoint someone. So we're waiting to see whether he does that. We're still waiting to see if McConnell gets a few days or more to prove that he's alive and functioning. All right, so this is the end. Something just pleasant for you who stuck around this long. A little thing I was watching on my TikTok videos about the Lennon sisters, young ladies who did a song called "Tonight You Belong to Me," and it was a beautiful harmony. I loved it. And the comments though were really a riot because it sounded like in "Tonight You Belong to Me," like as if the guy is sneaking around, or if it was some kind of you're gonna be murdered in your bed, and it was just very funny. But the song itself, you get a chance to look it up. "Tonight You Belong to Me." It's very melodic, very pleasant. The girls seem sweet. And so there you go. Another wonderful recording from Generally Speaking. I hope you enjoyed it. Like to subscribe, hit the notify bell, and take care.